this is I kind of want to open this up because there's a whole thing going on right now with child actors. I'm gonna read a post by Jay Lewis, aka Lil JJ. He posted on Facebook, "Just Jordan got canceled. I ain't giving up no ass, LOL."
Remember Lil JJ, the 11-year-old boy from Little Rock, Arkansas, who walked onto a BET stage and destroyed every adult comedian in sight? Well, the reason he disappeared will leave you speechless.
When y'all really be lying is when y'all whooping us. Talking about, I'm whooping you, cause I love you.
Within 2 years, Nickelodeon handed him his own sitcom. By 2008, he had vanished from Hollywood entirely.
My boy went to college, like, you know what I mean? He went and did something else, like. And like, it's so crazy because of what he did in his childhood, people are frowning like, what are you doing in college?
When the Quiet on Set documentary was released in 2024, Lil JJ finally broke his silence with 4 words that changed everything. So, what happened to the boy, wonder who seemed destined for superstardom? Let's get into it. October 31st, 1990. Halloween night in Little Rock, Arkansas. James Charles Lewis III entered the world with a natural gift that would both make and destroy his childhood. The oldest of 4 children, little James discovered early that he could make people laugh. Not the typical kid jokes that adults politely chuckled at, but genuine, gut-busting comedy that left grown-ups speechless.
You want to be my babysitter?
By age 8, James was performing at local talent shows, church events, and family gatherings. His parents recognized something special in their son, but they had no idea how dangerous that talent would become. While his friends played video games, James was crafting material that could make adults forget their problems. The Lewis household became a testing ground for young James's comedy experiments. Dinner conversations turned into impromptu performances where he would try out new jokes on his 3 younger siblings. Teachers at James's elementary school began noticing something unusual. During show and tell presentations, other children would stumble through prepared speeches. James would deliver perfectly timed observations about school life that had his classmates rolling in the aisles. By 4th grade, James had developed a reputation as the class clown, but not in the disruptive way that usually earned students' detention. His humor was sophisticated, observational, and never mean-spirited. He could find the funny side of any situation without making anyone feel bad about themselves. The first time James performed at a local talent show, he was 9 years old and barely tall enough to reach the microphone without standing on a box. The audience expected cute childhood antics. Instead, James delivered a 5-minute set about the differences between how kids and adults view the world. The material was original, the timing was perfect, and the response was electric.
When y'all really be lying, when y'all really be lying, is when y'all whooping us. Talking about, I'm whooping you, cause I love you.
Word began spreading throughout Little Rock's small entertainment scene about the elementary school kid who could perform like a seasoned professional. Local comedy clubs began inviting James to perform. His parents were hesitant at first, but James was persistent. Finally, they agreed to let him perform at a family-friendly comedy showcase. That night changed everything. James took the stage in front of over 200 people, most of them adults who had come expecting to see established local comedians. What they witnessed instead was a 10-year-old boy commanding the room like a veteran performer, delivering material that was both age-appropriate and genuinely hilarious. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. Comedy club owners immediately approached James's parents with offers for regular bookings. Within weeks, James Charles Lewis III had become a minor celebrity in his hometown. In 2003, when James was just 11 years old, his family learned about BET's Comin' to the Stage, a national talent search looking for the next generation of comedians. James recorded his audition in their modest Arkansas home. No fancy equipment, no professional coaching, just raw talent captured on a basic camera. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. BT wanted James in Los Angeles for the live competition. The family scrambled to make travel arrangements, maxing out credit cards to get their boy to California. Standing backstage at the BET studios, surrounded by adult comedians with years of experience, James should have been intimidated. Instead, he was excited. When his name was called, he walked onto that stage with the confidence of someone who belonged there. James destroyed the competition. His material was fresh, his delivery was flawless, and his stage presence commanded attention. Adult comedians who had been performing for decades watched in amazement as this tiny kid from Arkansas controlled the room like a seasoned professional. When the judges announced James Charles Lewis III as the winner of Comin' to the Stage, they weren't just crowning a child comedian. They were unleashing a force of nature into an industry that had no idea how to protect him. Victory at Comin' to the Stage opened doors that most adult comedians never see. Within months of his BET triumph, talent agents were calling the Lewis family home in Arkansas. Everyone wanted a piece of the miracle child who could make audiences laugh until they cried. The offers started small but grew rapidly. Local comedy clubs booked James for weekend shows, billing him as the youngest professional comedian in America. Regional television stations wanted him for interviews. Comedy festivals made exceptions to include the young sensation from Arkansas. But the most significant attention came from Hollywood scouts who began making pilgrimages to Arkansas specifically to see James perform. They arrived in rental cars, wearing expensive suits, carrying contracts that promised to make the Lewis family wealthy beyond their wildest dreams.
All right, next up is a little man with big jokes. Let's meet 12-year-old Lil JJ.
Hey, I'm Lil JJ from Little Rock, Arkansas, and the reason why I think I'm gonna win is because I'm the hardest working young man in the show business.
These Hollywood representatives painted pictures of a future where James would star in movies and host television shows. They spoke about merchandising deals and generational wealth. The numbers they mentioned were staggering to a working-class family from Arkansas. James was insistent. He knew his destiny lay in entertainment, and every day he spent in Arkansas felt like a day wasted. He begged his parents to let him pursue the opportunities that were presenting themselves. Finally, in late 2004, the Lewis family made the decision that would change everything. They packed their belongings and moved to Los Angeles. The transition was jarring. Arkansas represented safety and familiarity. Los Angeles was a different world entirely. The competition was fierce, the lifestyle was expensive, and the entertainment industry operated by rules that no one bothered to explain to newcomers. James, now 14 years old and performing under the stage name Lil JJ, began auditioning for television shows. His comedy background gave him an advantage over typical child actors, but it also marked him as different. While other kids were learning to deliver scripted lines, Lil JJ was improvising and adding his own flair to characters. Nickelodeon noticed. The network was struggling to recapture the magic that had made them dominant in children's television. All that, their flagship sketch comedy show, had been declining in ratings. Network executives believed that fresh talent might revitalize their programming. Lil JJ auditioned for All That in early 2005, competing against dozens of other child performers. When Lil JJ took the stage for his final audition, something clicked. His natural comedy instincts, honed through years of live performance, translated perfectly to sketch comedy. The Nickelodeon executives were impressed not just by his comedic abilities, but by his professionalism and work ethic. They offered him a spot on the show's 10th season, hosting the Vital Information segment. All that provided him with national exposure that transformed him from a regional comedy sensation into a recognizable television personality. His segments showcased his natural charisma and comedy timing to millions of viewers every week. Young audiences responded positively, while parents appreciated that his comedy was clean and family-friendly. But the experience also introduced him to the complex machinery of children's television production. Sets were controlled by adults who viewed child performers as products rather than people. Schedules were grueling, leaving little time for normal teenage experiences. The pressure to remain funny, charming, and marketable was constant and overwhelming. Still, Lil JJ thrived. His segments consistently performed well in ratings and audience testing. Network research showed that viewers specifically tuned in to watch Lil JJ's segments, and his presence was helping to revitalize interest in all that. Nickelodeon executives began discussing bigger opportunities for their new star. The network offered him something unprecedented for someone so young: his own sitcom. January 7, 2007. Just Jordan premiered on Nickelodeon to respectable ratings that exceeded network expectations. The show followed Jordan Lewis, a 16-year-old boy who moves from Arkansas to Los Angeles to live with his grandfather and work in the family diner. The premise was loosely based on Lil JJ's own life experiences.
President. You know what ain't right? They would never let a kid be president. Don't you think it's time they did? Grown-ups been messing up the planet for a good long time.
For a 17-year-old performer, starring in his own television series represented the ultimate validation. Lil JJ was no longer just a sketch comedy player. He was the lead, the name above the title, the reason audiences tuned in every week. The first season consisted of 13 episodes that established the show's tone and characters. Jordan was surrounded by a supporting cast that included his younger sister Monica, his strict mother, his gruff grandfather, and his best friends Joaquin and Tony. The writing balanced humor with genuine emotional moments, creating a show that appealed to both children and parents. Critics responded positively to the show's authentic portrayal of teenage life and Lil JJ's natural performance.
Y'all might be tall, but this kid got ski. Or not.
Unlike many child actors who seem to be reciting lines, Lil JJ brought genuine emotion and believable reactions to his character. Unlike many Nickelodeon productions, Just Jordan was produced by Ralph Farquhar, an African-American producer with an impressive track record that included Moshe, The Parkers, and The Proud Family. This provided some protection from toxic environments, but it didn't eliminate all the pressures facing young performers. As the star of the show, Lil JJ was carrying enormous responsibility. His performance determined whether dozens of cast and crew members would continue working. The pressure to be consistently funny and promote the show was overwhelming for someone who was still a teenager. The show's second season began airing in September 2007 and was filmed in front of a live studio audience. This added energy, but also increased pressure. The second season also featured more ambitious storylines that allowed Lil JJ to demonstrate his range as a performer. Critics continued to praise the show and ratings remained steady. Network executives were cautiously optimistic about the show's future and began discussing potential storylines for a third season. Then, disaster struck. The 2007-08 Writers Guild of America strike began on November 5, 2007, shutting down production on virtually every scripted television program. Just Jordan was no exception. Episodes that had already been completed continued airing, but no new content could be produced.
Anything in production was totally screwed. It had to stop entirely or work without a writer.
For established shows with loyal audiences, the strike represented a temporary setback. For newer programs still building their viewer base, the interruption was potentially fatal. Just Jordan lost crucial momentum during the strike. The strike lasted for 100 days, finally ending on February 12, 2008. When new episodes finally began airing, the show struggled to recapture its earlier audience numbers. Viewers who had found other programming during the strike didn't automatically return. Nickelodeon executives, facing budget pressures and uncertain ratings, made a cold business decision. Despite 29 episodes across 2 seasons, despite positive reviews, and despite Lil JJ's committed performance, Just Jordan was canceled. The final episode aired on August 23, 2008. Lil JJ was 18 years old, legally an adult but still emotionally processing the loss of the platform that had defined his teenage years. More troubling was what happened next, or rather, what didn't happen next. In Hollywood, canceled shows are usually followed by new opportunities for talented performers. Agents submit their clients for other projects, casting directors remember impressive performances, and careers continue evolving. For Lil JJ, however, the period following Just Jordan's cancellation was marked by an eerie silence. The phone calls from casting directors stopped coming. Auditions became rare. Projects that seemed promising mysteriously stalled or moved forward with other actors. Lil JJ, who had been one of Nickelodeon's brightest young stars just months earlier, found himself essentially blacklisted from the industry he had conquered as a child.
Went to college and started, my boy went to college, he went and did something else, and it's so crazy because of what he did in his childhood, people are frowned what are you doing in college?
The reasons for this sudden career freeze were never officially explained. Industry insiders whispered various explanations. Some suggested that Lil JJ had become difficult to work with, though no one could provide specific examples. Others claimed he was too old for children's programming, but too young for adult roles. The reality was more complex. Lil JJ had entered the entertainment industry as a child prodigy whose natural talent and independent thinking made adults uncomfortable. He had never been content to simply follow directions or deliver lines exactly as written. His comedy background had taught him to think creatively and trust his instincts.
I feel good, this give me a chance to just connect with all my fellow peers and stuff and, kind of just enjoy the game and,
In an industry built on control, Lil JJ's independence was seen as a threat. Child performers were expected to be grateful, compliant, and easily managed. They were supposed to accept whatever roles they were offered and never question the adults making decisions about their careers. Lil JJ had never fit that mold. Even as a young teenager, he had opinions about his characters, suggestions for improving scripts, and ideas about how scenes should be performed. What should have been valued as creative input was instead interpreted as insubordination. The entertainment industry's response was swift and merciless. If Lil JJ wouldn't be a cooperative child star, then he wouldn't be a star at all. During this period of professional exile, Lil JJ made decisions that may have protected his mental health but further damaged his Hollywood prospects. He enrolled at Arkansas Baptist College, focusing on his education. He joined the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, building connections outside the entertainment industry. He also began speaking more openly about his experiences as a child performer. He discussed the pressures of carrying a television show, the challenges of growing up in public, and the difficulty of transitioning from child star to adult performer. These honest reflections, while emotionally healthy, marked him as someone who might expose uncomfortable truths about how young people were treated in Hollywood. The entertainment industry responded to this honesty with continued silence. Lil JJ's career remained stalled, his talent wasted, his potential unfulfilled. But he refused to disappear entirely. For over a decade, Lil JJ navigated the entertainment industry's wilderness. He took small roles when offered, appeared on reality shows like Wild 'N Out, and continued performing stand-up comedy in clubs across the country. He was surviving, but no longer thriving.
That might be true. Yeah. But Lil JJ, we ain't seen your ass since Comic View.
In March 2024, everything changed. The Quiet on Set, the Dark Side of Kids TV documentary premiered on Investigation Discovery, exposing decades of abuse, exploitation, and systematic dysfunction at Nickelodeon. The revelations shocked even industry veterans. Dan Schneider, the powerful producer behind shows like All That and Drake and Josh, was revealed as someone who had created toxic work environments and engaged in inappropriate behavior with young performers. Former child stars came forward with horrific stories. Drake Bell revealed that he had been abused by Nickelodeon dialogue coach Brian Peck beginning when Bell was just 15 years old.
Brian and I became really close because we had a lot of the same interests, which, looking back, I think that was probably a little calculated.
As the documentary gained national attention, people began asking questions about other former Nickelodeon stars. What had happened to Amanda Bynes? Where was Jeanette McCurdy? And what about Lil JJ, who had seemed so promising before vanishing after Just Jordan was canceled? Social media users began tagging him in posts about the documentary, asking him to share his own experiences and validate the stories being told by other survivors. The implication was clear. If he had worked at Nickelodeon during that era, he must have witnessed or experienced abuse himself. The pressure for Lil JJ to respond became overwhelming. The assumption that all former Nickelodeon child stars were automatically victims created pressure for people like him to either claim victimhood they hadn't experienced or risk seeming unsympathetic to actual survivors. On March 20th, 2024, Lil JJ finally broke his silence. In a Facebook post that was quickly screenshotted and shared across social media platforms, he wrote 4 words that stunned everyone.
I'm gonna read a post by Jay Lewis, aka Lil JJ. He posted on Facebook, "Just Jordan got canceled. I ain't giving up no ass, LOL."
The crude phrasing shocked people who remembered him as a clean-cut child performer, but the message was clear. Lil JJ was stating that he had not been sexually abused during his time at Nickelodeon. He was pushing back against the assumption that all former child stars were victims. The response was immediate and polarized. Some praised him for speaking his truth and refusing to be pressured into claiming victimhood he hadn't experienced. Others criticized the crude language and accused him of being insensitive to actual survivors. But Lil JJ's statement revealed something more complex than a simple denial of abuse. It was a declaration of independence from the narrative that all child performers were helpless victims. It was an assertion that some young people had managed to navigate Hollywood without being broken by it. More importantly, his statement was an explanation for his career exile that no one had expected. Lil JJ had not disappeared because he had been abused. He had disappeared because he had refused to be controlled. His independence and unwillingness to play the victim had made him unemployable in an industry that preferred compliant child stars. The entertainment industry had not destroyed Lil JJ through abuse. They had destroyed him through systematic exclusion, deliberate neglect, and the quiet assassination of a career that refused to conform to their expectations. They had taken one of the most talented young performers of his generation and made him irrelevant simply because he would not submit to their control. His crude but honest response revealed that the entertainment industry's mistreatment of child performers was more sophisticated than most people realized. They didn't need to abuse every young performer to maintain control. They just needed to destroy a few careers publicly enough to serve as examples for others. Lil JJ had been made an example of what happened to child stars who thought they could maintain their independence while working in Hollywood. But his willingness to speak honestly about his experiences represented a form of victory the industry hadn't anticipated. They had silenced his career, but they hadn't silenced his voice. In many ways, that was an even more damning indictment of how Hollywood treats its young stars. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.